Okay, well, here we are, Scissors and Scrubs. And this is going to get released the day before. Where are we going, Laura?
Paris.
Oui, Paris, mon chéri. Yeah.
So excited.
I'm so freaking excited.
I know.
We're recording this way in advance.
Yes.
But this will come out before we go to Oui, Paris.
So excited.
In honor of our Paris trip, we're going to talk about Paris syndrome and the catacombs.
Yay.
So, Laura, take it away with the Paris syndrome. Shall we call you something Franglish? Some Franglish name?
Like I learned mine in 7th grade. It was Lacha.
Can we call you that this episode?
No, it's disgusting.
Lacha.
It's terrible. So I did the Paris syndrome on livescience.com. That's where I got the information from. I really hope we don't get this. Okay.
You're going to propose to me in Paris? Is that what it is?
No, that's not what this is.
It's an STD?
No. A small percentage of the millions of travelers that visit Paris every year can experience Paris syndrome. It is not like a DSM diagnosis, like an official diagnosis.
Is this going to be like that weird thing you had, the Jerusalem thing?
But it is recognized as by experts as a real phenomenon. It really happens. So Mathieu Duflem, a professor of sociology at USC, says Paris syndrome is most common among Japanese tourists. So we might let go.
Random.
But also affects tourists.
my father was raised in Japan. You think it might hit me?
Oh, might.
Okay.
It also affects tourists from China, South Korea, and Singapore.
So we're Asians. We're talking Asians.
Mostly.
Okay.
Other people can experience, but it's mostly
thing.
really with Japanese travelers. Hiroki Ota, who's a Japanese psychiatrist that was working in a hospital in France, coined the term the Paris syndrome in the 1980s and even wrote a book called The Paris Syndrome. It was reported in 2006 that the Japanese embassy in Paris had a 24-hour hotline for those suffering from the syndrome. It was also reported that year by Miyuki Kasuma, who worked in the Japanese embassy, that there are around 20 cases a year of the syndrome.
I'm desperate to know what this is.
Yeah, I know. And it has been occurring for several years. That person also reported that the Japanese embassy had to repatriate at least 4 Japanese citizens in 2006. So, like, they were suffering so badly, they had to, you can't live here anymore. You have to go back and live in Japan.
So these are people who are living in Paris.
Yeah. Okay. The embassy refutes both of these claims. The embassy says, no, we never had a 24-hour hotline. And they also said they didn't have to repatriate at least 4 citizens. So what is it exactly?
Dying to know.
Paris syndrome is a type of culture shock. The media and tourist ads portray Paris as this beautiful, romantic, intellectual city.
Oh, I've heard a very dark side of it.
With models and fashion and art. And, they hype it up to be this romanticized place. However, in reality, Paris is dirty, unfriendly, and slightly dangerous. The difference between the Paris people dream up and the reality of Paris can be so jarring that it throws some people into a shock. Especially people from Japan, because they are used to a very clean, safe, and friendly environment. Like they are not used to coming into something littered and dirty and dark and rude. Yeah, it throws them completely off kilter. And when people have high expectations and then are greatly disappointed, it causes a culture shock. The syndrome is characterized by acute delusional states, hallucinations, feelings of persecution, derealization, depersonalization, anxiety, dizziness, increased heart rate, sweating, nausea, and vomiting.
Nausea and vomiting? Take it. Well, probably it's so filthy.
Well, I think it's the anxiety. It's like an anxiety attack coming on. It is a very complex psychic phenomenon that has to do with disappointment and despair about the ways reality does not match romantic expectations.
Oh.
So,
I mean, I see that because Paris is portrayed as like this romantic city, and isn't it? Look at the architecture, and the women are so she, and
they were like the women, it's like you expect models to be walking down the street in high fashion. Like that doesn't happen. That is not happening. No one's walking down the street highly fashionable. Like it is not like that at all. It's
a girlfriend of ours went years ago. She took one of her daughters, and I was like, "So what did you think?" She goes, "It's gross. The place is filthy, and they're peeing everywhere, and Parisians are horrible people." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Yeah. Great. Can't wait."
Yeah. I think we don't come from like a
Again, I didn't come from a friendly city. So.
We don't come from a friendly place. I mean, I think we're nice, but we're not like super friendly.
Right.
So I don't think we'll be so delusioned.
Right. Oh, God, no.
No. But I think they must just be so shocked. They see it in movies and like,
right.
Everybody's
and
floating
where
around
they
in
come
dresses.
from is
And...
ridiculously clean. Like, ridiculous.
Oh, Japan, yes.
Japan's ridiculous. Not that I've ever been there, but from what
That's
I hear,
what they
like, they're
say,
the cleanest things going.
Yeah. So that is Paris syndrome. I don't think we will get it.
So maybe part of the reason Paris is so filthy dates back to their burial grounds and the overall state of the city leading to the catacombs.
Oh, good.
So one of my top attractions that I'm desperate to see in Paris is the catacombs. I have seen the pictures of them. Like, my highlight's going to be the fucking catacombs. I fuck the Eiffel Tower. I would like to see Notre Dame, but that's going to be closed. I want a couple of baguettes and some cheese, but I really want these catacombs.
I want wine, coffee, and a cigarette. That's going to be my highlight.
I don't need a cigarette. I don't drink coffee. Wine's going to give me a headache. Cheese.
Oh, God.
I could eat my weight in cheese, man. Grapes. Some grapes.
Oh, yeah.
Strawberries. Chocolate. Grapes. Can do that. All right. Here we go. Catacombs. City of Paris has its earliest burial grounds on the outskirts of town.
Okay. On
the left bank of the city during Roman times, like 4 AD, 5 AD. Okay. Paris has been around for a long time. Eventually, they give that up. They move to the right bank. I'm assuming it's split between two rivers when they say left and right bank. That's what I'm going with. I don't know. I've never been to Paris. We'll figure it out.
I think it's just of the one river. The left bank of the river and the right bank of the river.
Maybe they're crossing over the river and going?
Yeah, you know those little bridges?
We'll find out. All right. So they start settling around 4th century. They're building it up. They're settling actually around a church called Saint Etienne Church. Now, you're going to have to forgive me because there's a lot of French names in here, and I don't speak French.
You know, I got that.
I don't speak French.
No,
okay.
You barely speak English.
So behind the church is where they start with the burial grounds.
Yeah, makes sense.
Right. So most cities would normally bury their dead on the outskirts of town. Now Paris, we're going to bury them right in the middle of the fucking city. And you got to figure, I mean, it's a big city. You know, plague, wars, burying a lot of people in these fucking burial grounds. Okay. So, they're burying them in the cities. And the most central and biggest of the cemeteries is the Saints Innocents. It goes on to this big, long fucking name. I'm shortening a lot of these names because I don't speak French. Okay. So, in 1130, it becomes Paris. Laura, I really...
Barely
It's
English.
not even cold medicine. No. Paris's biggest cemetery. I did put my apostrophe after the S because
that might be to it.
So it becomes Paris's biggest cemetery. By the end of, by 1199, it's overflowing already. We got another 600 years to go with the cemetery, and it's already overflowing 1199. I can't even fathom, that date, 1199.
I know.
Okay, I can't. So to make room for more bodies, they're literally just dumping them and dumping in. So it's becoming a bigger and bigger and bigger mound of bodies in the middle of the city. It eventually ends up, by the 18th century, to be 2 meters high, which is, I don't know how many meters, but it's a high mound, of fucking bodies that are probably 20 deep. And they're also taking some of these bodies and they're taking the bones and they're packing them into the roofs and walls of what they're calling charniers. They're like little mausoleums, but they're packing it with bones and shit because they're just trying to make room, and they're packing it in the walls of these cemeteries.
Of the mausoleums.
So by the end of the 18th century, there's a 2-meter high mound of dead people at St. Innocents, as well as there's other burial grounds in the city, but the St. Innocents is the biggest one. Like I said, there's people from the plagues, people from the war, eventually people from the revolution end up in there. And it's completely fucking overcrowded, dilapidated. It's disgusting. All of these cemeteries in the city are really disgusting. Under the city of Paris are tunnels. So Paris, if you look at the buildings, it's a white city because it's built with limestone. There was a shitload of it sits on a bed of limestone. In 12th century, they were digging. They had these really rudimentary mines, and they were digging all the limestone and taking it out. But basically, it just consisted of we dig a well, we dig tunnels of limestone, we pull it all out, and we let it collapse. So Eventually, they stop mining outside of the city, but it leaves a complete system of tunnels that are uncharted and forgotten about under Paris. So in 1774, these mines are causing cave-ins around Paris. That's why Paris doesn't have a lot of skyscrapers, because you can't build on top of these things or collapse them. So they're having a lot of cave-in around the city. So Louis XVI starts a commission to look at the mines and keep Paris from collapsing. And it was like a big deal, this commission. It had police were involved, and they're going down into the mines. They're charting them, they're mapping them, and they're fixing what they can down there, renovating them to keep the city from collapsing into the mines. On May 31st, 1780, a basement wall that is sharing a wall with the cemetery, St. Innocent's, caves. Here comes all these bodies.
The whole mound flows.
It comes into the basements of these homes and stuff. Exactly. Like skeletons, half-eaten bodies, rats, God the fuck knows what was in this thing. It collapses into the adjoining buildings, and they're like, all right, nobody else is getting buried here. We're done. This one is done. So they officially close the cemetery in 1780. No more burials. So they're like, what the fuck are we going to do? We can't keep all these cemeteries open. Like, what are we going to do with these bodies? So the head of the commission, Alexandre Lenoir, that's what we're going to go with. Lenoir. I like Lenoir.
Okay.
Said, why don't we start moving them into the catacombs? They weren't even called, we'll move them into the tunnels underneath. And they're like, that's a great fucking idea. Yeah. Let's move into the catacombs. So it's decided to further renovate. They call them, I'm going to call it tomb, but there's an E on the end. Issoire. 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 As an underground sepulcher. Does that sound right? Yeah, you know what I meant, right? Yeah. Like a holy ground underneath. Yeah. So in 1785, a law was passed to stop moving the burial grounds to these underground tunnels. So on April 7th, it's official. Like, they find a piece of property that's near these cemeteries that's walled, because they don't want everybody seeing what they're doing, because the town's going to get pissed and the church is going to get pissed that you're desecrating these bodies. So they get a wall and they dig a hole into the tunnels. And they start April 7th emptying them down. So it's cart after cart after cart of black draped wagons. And they're just dumping fucking bones down this hole.
Oh my God.
2 million bones of people go down these holes. And it starts moving from the Saints Innocents to the Clos de la Tombe whatever. I don't speak French. So it takes 2 years to move these millions.
2 years.
2 years, because it's not just this cemetery. There's other cemeteries, and there's millions of people. Imagine how many, how many people died just from the plague, you know? All right. So they move it from St. Innocent's. 2 million are moved. So there was over 600 years of bodies in there. 2 million people are moved out of there. The Orancy Cemetery, those are the victims of the French Revolution that end up in there. Notre Dame de Blanc, Montaut. It's the oldest. Is that the right? No, Saint Etienne des Gras is one of the oldest. The Notre Dame de Blanc, Montaut. Why can't they just call it one fucking thing? It's also emptied into there. So at first they're just haphazardly dumping them into there, and it's these bones are piling up and everything. So in 1810, Louis Etienne, it's a big name.
It is.
That's what I'm going to call you, Etienne. Hericat de, I can't pronounce his last name, Thury. He's the director of the commission at this time that's going through these mine services. And he's like, let's do something with these bones so it can be like a visiting, you can visit this. And it's a visitable mausoleum. That's what he called it. So he starts directing people what to do with the skulls and the femurs and the bones. And he's also taking gravestones and other decorations from the cemetery and using them in these elaborate walls in these catacombs. So he has a room that shows, like, among these catacombs, there's a room that will show you all the minerals that you can find under the city of Paris. And there's also a room that shows you all the abnormalities of the bones that they were finding. Like, oh, this one's got club foot. This one's got a fucked up head. Excuse me. He added, everything's in French, so He added like walls with monuments. He added archways with like scary writings on them to kind of add a little intrigue into this whole thing. And to ensure the safety of the visitors, because these are miles and miles and miles and miles and miles of catacombs. They walled off a lot of the catacombs.
Oh, good. You can't get lost.
You can't get lost. But, in 1793, Filbert Asper, who was a doorkeeper to the tomb of the Val de Grace Hospital, got lost in the catacombs. They found him 11 years later. His body bones are buried where they found him, in the catacombs.
Lovely.
In 1809, the catacombs are open to the public by appointment only at the time. Napoleon went down there. He thought it was pretty cool. The future King of England, Charles the 10th or something, had gone in. The different dignitaries from around Europe had gone in. And they also had like a register there so that people could come in and tell you what they thought about the catacombs. I don't think I want anybody telling me about my work about it, because one bad review, I'd be like, fuck you.
Yeah.
So, and it becomes a huge attraction to Paris. During World War II, the French Resistance used the tunnels for headquarters, and that eventually led to the taking back of Paris in June of 1944. 2004, police, I don't know why the police are down in the catacombs. They come in. There is a full movie theater in the catacombs. Like seats, screen, film, sound, stocked bar, like a full fucking movie theater in the middle of these catacombs.
And no one noticed this.
Somebody, I don't know. I don't know if it was like a speakeasy down in the catacombs, but there was a group that took credit for having been the ones to do that. So today the catacombs are open daily, as we will go, and it's open because at one time it was only open periodically. Like you could go in the fall, you could go in the spring, but you couldn't go all year long. Now you can go all year long, whenever you want, yada yada yada. There you go.
Nice. Is the movie theater still there?
I don't know, but that would be pretty cool. See scary movies down the catacombs, couple of skulls watching over your shoulder. Ugh. I can't wait. I cannot wait to see it.
I showed Sam pictures. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah. It's like, I think you get that it's like dead bodies, but then when you see it, it's like an overwhelming amount of dead bodies.
2 million from one cemetery.
Yeah, it's a lot of dead bodies.
A lot of dead bodies.
Made into like pillars.
Yeah, just, they had one thing, it's round. Like it must be it holds the roof up. Some kind of support. Yeah. But it's round and it's nothing but skulls.
That's what I mean, like a pillar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be just awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be unbelievable.
But like, it's kind of sad because you don't know who they are.
No, just 2 million people.
It's just 2 million people. So you can't go visit grandma, great grandma, anybody.
No. I mean, all those people's great grandkids are long dead.
Oh, I'm sure. But, the revolution's not that far past. It's only a couple hundred past.
Oh, just a couple hundred.
Just a couple hundred. Yeah, it's like a great,
Okay.
That's like a great.
Seems like a long time.
I think it'd be kind of cool. So, the next time we record after this, we will be back from Wee Wee Paris. Yeah. And I'll tell you if either one of us ended up with Paris syndrome. My expectations are not that high, so I don't think so. I'm going in with eyes wide open. Yes. I did hear it's crime ridden. Somebody pickpockets me. Somebody's dying. I'm not gonna lie. Somebody's dying. I'm gonna kill him.
I'm just wearing everything under my clothes.
I remember another nurse we worked with saying she went over there and she was in a cab, and the cab in front of her, somebody smashed they came out like from the overpass, smashed the window, took the guy's computer right out of the cab.
Oh my God.
So we have to be very careful.
Yeah. Sounds great.
I don't know why there's so much crime though. They're not like poor.
I don't know.
Like I understand it in poor countries. Why, but why there?
I don't know.
Somebody's going to steal my identity over there. I know it.
What?
Yeah, it's coming.
Oh my God. I think it's going to be just fine. Nothing's going to happen.
So, all right, Wee Wee Perry. This was a short but sweet episode.
Yeah.
We love you all.
Yeah.
Send in some ideas. We love them. We love to hear them. And we will see you on the flip side. Getting near spring.
It's March.
Getting near spring. Yay. Bye.
Like, subscribe, rate, and review the Scissors and Scrubs podcast on whatever podcast app you listen to us on. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Scissors and Scrubs. And email us any of your stories or thoughts to scissorsnscrubs@gmail.com.